How do you do? My name's Steve Rothel. My written submission referenced the proposed speed limit outside Cornerstone School, where my daughter waits for the 106 bus to Whakarongo. However, the points I'm making, I believe, are relevant to all of the proposed school speed limits. Firstly, I'd like to draw your attention to incorrect information in the FAQs that the Council put out for this consultation. It states, quote, "For schools in Palmerston North, we are required to create a 30k variable speed limit," unquote. However, this is incorrect. The attached ministry document, Setting of Speed Limits 2024, section 512 states, quote, "However, a road controlling authority is not required to set a speed limit in accordance with subclause 1, that's 30 k's an hour, if immediately before the commencement of this rule, the applicable speed limit for the road outside the school was a speed limit of 30 k's or 40 k's enforced during school travel periods," unquote. In other words, if there is already a 40k speed limit, it does not need to be lowered further to 30 k's. With regard to the proposed variable speed limits, in almost all cases the Council is proposing 30 k's for an hour and a half in the morning and the same in the afternoon. That is 30 k's for up to 3 hours per school day across large parts of the city. This includes 45 minutes before the school starts, when schools clearly tell parents, do not send your kids that early. 45 minutes after the early bell, when there'll only be negligible numbers of latecomers arriving. 45 minutes before the final bell, and there will be very small numbers leaving at that stage, and 45 minutes thereafter. The whole rationale for variable speed limits is that there are large congregations of children and their caregivers at these times. To have such long periods where you are legally required to slow down to 30 k's will inevitably produce the same result you get with 30k speed limits in many other situations. For example, in Tennant Drive right now. It's ignored because motorists believe that they are being unreasonably slowed down to ridiculously slow speeds where there is no apparent reason. A motorist could be travelling through multiple school zones during a trip across the city. Slowing to 30 k's could add considerable time to a journey and on the way back. The promoters of slower speeds inevitably talk about the physics and the risk of death or injury at higher speeds. However, you can't just consider the physics. You also have to consider the psychology and the human behaviour. If you're adding extra time to a journey, you're adding that time to the end of someone's journey. A 10-minute trip becomes a 15-minute trip. A 3-hour trip becomes 3 hours and 5 minutes. That's 5 minutes added to the end of your trip, when you're tired, frustrated, and psychologically in that near the finish line frame of mind. Slower speeds can paradoxically make roads more dangerous for this reason. And this isn't just theoretical. Last year, blanket speed limits were reversed in July across vast swathes of our highway network. It was predicted that this would inevitably produce higher road deaths. But 2025 ended with the lowest per capita road toll in 70 years. Allowing drivers to get where they want to at reasonable speeds actually improves driver behaviour and increases respect for the law and for existing speed limits. In contrast, forcing drivers to travel at unreasonably slow speeds decreases driver compliance and increases tiredness and frustration. I therefore urge the Council to set the speed limits around schools at 40 k's during drop-off on pick-up times, and for these times to be significantly shortened to about 40 minutes in the morning and 40 minutes in the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Steve. I'll open it up. We have the time for a question. Are there any members that would have one? No, there isn't. Thank you very much for presenting and speaking to your